In this video, we're going to talk about the new super elevation tools. First, let's take a look at a couple of settings. In Workspace Preferences, we have the setting for the fill. We can either have it color shaded, the boundaries only, and in either case there you can select the super elevation lanes, or we also have none where they're completely turned off. The other setting is under Design File. And here we're going to look at the station settings and also look at the profile settings. In this case, the slope precision is used for the element handlers and the cross slope on your super elevation lanes. So both of those would be useful if you want to adjust the number of decimal places on the element handlers. Now let's take a look at the super elevation tools. They're located inside of the corridor modeling, and there's a set of 7 tools, and we can go ahead and we're going to pull those off into a toolbox so that we can discuss them. The first 3 tools are used to create your super elevation lanes and also to do the calculations. The 4th tool is used to assign it to a corridor, so you can develop your initial super elevations without having the corridor or without having your profiles done. The last 3 tools are to be used on existing super elevation lanes, and that includes editors and reports and those sorts of functions. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to create our super elevation sections, similar to creating a corridor. So first we're going to provide our name, and we're just going to use our alignment name, which is main. It wants to know what our baseline, so we'll select our alignment, and that is a civil geometry element. Then we're going to do our start and ending stations. And then it wants to know the tangent length. In this case, it's going to automatically separate into curve sets. And if 2 curves are closer together than your minimum tangent length, then it will include them as one curve set. I'm going to use 100. And now you can see it's separated out into 6 curve sets. And it also automatically moved me to the next tool, which is our super elevation lanes. So in this case, we can name the lanes however we want, and you can start on either side, it doesn't matter. So I'll start on the left. I'm just going to call the first one left 1. We're on the left side of center line. We're going to start at the center line and go 12 feet out for our first lane. So we'll have an offset of 0, a width of 12 feet, and a cross slope of minus 1.5%. I'm going to move my cursor slightly, and it's going to reprompt me. This time now we're going to do the second lane on the left. And this time I'm going to start at 12 feet offset. And it's still going to be 12 feet wide, and I'm going to use a minus 2% for that lane. So now I have 2 lanes on the left side, and we'll move over to the right side. And in this case, I can do them in any order. So I'm going to do my outside right lane first, because I can reuse my prompts. We're going to move over to the right side of the roadway. My inside edge is going to be 12 feet. It's going to be 12 feet wide. That's a minus 2%. And for my final, I'm going to do the 1 right lane. And this is going to be the inside one closest to center line. And we're on the right side again. My inside offset is going to be 0 because it's the center line. Still 12 feet wide. And this time I'm going to use a minus 1.5. And now you can see that we have 4 lanes, 2 on the left, 2 on the right. Keep in mind, however, that my 2 outside lanes are not through lanes. They're going to be turn lanes, and they're going to be used intermittently. But I can still put them in as super elevation lanes and will be based on my rules. So now that I've got all 4 lanes, and I'm going to hit the reset, and it's going to move me on to the next tool. And the next tool is actually doing the calculations. So up to this point, I've just defined the lanes, and that's all I've done. So now it's going to prompt me for my super elevation file, which is going to be either an SEP or an SRL. In this case, I'm using an SEP. And then based on what your selection is and how those files are set up, determines what prompts you're going to see up in this dialog. And so in this case, I'm going to use high speed, 1 to 200, 65 miles an hour, and I'm going to leave the editor closed, and we'll look at that in just a few minutes. And now you can see that the green and yellow lanes have changed into some rainbow lanes, indicating that the super elevations have been calculated and assigned. And if we window in, first I'm going to reset to exit out of the command. And I'm going to go ahead and select one of my shapes, these outside sections. You can see when I do that, now we have all kinds of manipulators. You can see we have our station, we have our cross slopes, and if we zoom out, we also have some of our lane information as well, our offsets. I can go ahead and grab onto a manipulator. You can see that we move them one lane at a time. I can also click on it and change the information. So maybe I only wanted to go to 4%, and you can see that's reflected. And I can also go ahead and change the stationing as well. So lots of ways to graphically manipulate the lanes. Okay. We can also get reports. And so once again, I can select the report tool, and I can use the section that I've already got done. So go ahead and select that. And I can grab multiples. And now you can see we have the super elevation report. And it's pretty basic. It's got our station, cross slopes, point types, and the fact that I'm using a linear transition. We can also take a look at the super elevation editor. And this lists all of my curve set. It has a diagram at the top. However, the diagram is not interactive. It's only for viewing. You'll notice inside we have station, curve sets, cross slopes. And anytime I make a change in the table, such as changing this from 6 to 4%, it will automatically change the graphics on the lane. So the two are always in sync. There's lots of extra fields here, but they can be turned off by using the show columns, and then you can just toggle off the ones that you don't want to see. So now that we've got our corridor, or our supers done, we're ready to apply to our corridor. And so let's turn the corridor on. I've already got one designed. And so now I'm going to use the assign super elevation to corridor. The first thing it wants to know is which of these sections I want. Well, I want all of them. So I zoomed out, and now I'm going to go ahead and do a diagonal drag across. And you'll see that it highlighted all of my shapes, each one of these super elevation curve set shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and reset. Wants to know my corridor, so I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to identify my corridor. And now it's showing me the 4 lanes that I've used. It's going to show me what my point controls are going to be, starting, stop, and station. So just kind of a quick review to make sure everything was found correctly in the templates, etc. And I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And now we want to go ahead and see that it was applied, and the easiest way to do that is with a cross section. So I've got a cross section view already open. We can see here's where it is here. And we can see there that we're already into a turn lane. So let's go back to the beginning. You can see here we're outside of our super elevation shape, and so we have just the one lane, and it's at the -1.5. And as we move along, all of a sudden it goes into full super, because now it is actually using our super elevation, not the template. You can see we're at a full 6%, and now you can see we're starting to come back down. And now you'll notice in this one we have the beginnings of a turn lane. And if we move in a little bit, you can see the turn lane is starting here. But you'll notice that my super elevation lane actually goes outside of the turn lane. And that's fine. It's going to build the turn lane based on either my template, or in this case, on my turn lane graphics. And so it knows to draw my supers based on my super lanes, but it will stop at the edge of my graphic. And so it basically ignores any of the super elevation lane that's outside of that. And the same thing is happening down in the area where there's only one lane. That second super lane that I drew in is being ignored as well. So as I continue on, we're at full super, and then we'll start to come back out of super. Let's zoom out a little bit so we can see better. And now you can see we've lost the turn lane. And now in this case, we're coming back down to our super again, to our normal crown. We can make changes in the super. We can adjust. We can also go to our Project Explorer. And in Project Explorer, under our civil models, we also have super elevation listed there. And it shows each one of our curve sets. And it also shows us the lanes and the transitions for each one.